And what I wanted to do was present the prayer to the world, but also present this mayhem that surrounds the prayer. And you'll see from a sound design point of view, the prayer begins and then you almost want to just catch it. Like, hang on, I want to hear more of the prayer. And I almost take that away from you. And it's almost, for me, it's a metaphor for our people and our culture. And this language that's been around for thousands of years, that's almost just gone blip. It's kind of like, where is it now?
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready or not, here I come. Does that sound familiar? We've all played the game hide and seek when we were younger, where somebody's hiding and the other person is trying to find them. Well, today's guest took a different spin on the game, whereas it is now a game of life and death. Hey everyone, it's Ninorta here bringing you episode number 154 of the Assyrian Podcast with Brian Patto. Brian wrote and directed a film about a father living in war-torn Iraq trying to protect his daughter from violent fanatics by using the innocent game of hide and seek. The film Grace has been a finalist in numerous film festivals, including New York Shorts, Boston Film Festival, Moscow Film Festival, Paris Shorts, Toronto Independent Film Festival, the LA Film Festival, Montreal Independent Film Festival, and was even awarded Best Foreign Short Film at the Calgary Film Festival and the Prague International Indie Film Festival. In this episode, you'll learn more about Brian's inspiration behind creating the short film Grace, and his plans to create a feature film in the near future. You'll also hear about the challenges faced with making this short film and how Brian and his team overcame these obstacles. Before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you to make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review us wherever you're listening. Also, if you know someone who should be on the podcast as a guest or even a host in your country, please reach out to us. You can find out more information on our website. Support for this week's episode of the Assyrian Podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalogerakos and the Injury Lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that's been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakos. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or at 847-982-9516. This episode is also sponsored by the Ushana Partners, a husband and wife real estate team. If you're considering purchasing or selling a home in Arizona or California, John and Rita are available to make your next real estate decision into a seamless transaction. Contact the Ushanas at 209-968-9519 and get to know them a bit more by checking out their website, theushanapartners.com. And now, here is Brian Patto. Brian Patto, thank you so much for joining us on the Assyrian Podcast today. It is a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel a little overwhelmed. I never thought. When I first set out to make the film, all the way from thinking about the idea to writing it to bringing on the team to help produce it and then make it. And for me, it was just I heard a story that inspired something in me, and I've always wanted to tell a story about our people because I've never seen that before, and I've always questioned it, like where is it? Yeah. Where are our artistic people? We've got our doctors and scientists and all, God bless them all, but where are the artists?
Absolutely.
So I never thought that, it would have this kind of reaction. And to be honest with you, the film's been around the world, thankfully, it's and we're really grateful and really happy. It's been, it's LA, Calgary, Boston, we're at so many festivals, which is fantastic, but I never ever thought that, our community would react this way. And I'm not sure what happened, but someone found the trailer, put the trailer up somewhere. I don't even know. And then all of a sudden, and this is three days ago, just bang, just inundated with messages and emails and really lovely messages and, of support and whatnot. So yeah, feeling great. I mean, the team is also very grateful. So thank you so much to the community. We're very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just on the Grace Film Instagram page just to see the different film festivals. And it was LA Shorts International, Rhode Island, Montreal Independent Film Festival, Australia Academy Cinema Television Arts, San Francisco, Best Foreign Short Film with Prague Festival, winner of Calgary Film Festival, Moscow Shorts, London Indie Film Festival, Boston Film, Tokyo, New York, Toronto.
Yeah.
Wow. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, and we're still we've still got a couple. We're waiting on a couple of festivals this month, and then next month is pretty big as well. We've got a whole bunch, waiting to hear next month. So yeah, and hopefully we'll. The ultimate goal, right, for the film is to make the feature film.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal. These festivals and awards and whatnot, they're all amazing and we're really grateful. But they all, the whole purpose is to, get it out there, get recognition, get people, get eyes on it, get an audience, and then hopefully, put together a pretty strong case to make a feature film. At the moment, we're writing the feature. We've got a fantastic writer on board, and our producers, he's an unstoppable force, our producer, which is very good to have on our side. And he's very passionate about the story as well. And yeah, so look, these festivals are fantastic, but the ultimate goal is to, get the feature up and running. We've got So let me ask you this: how did the film get into the festival? Do you, as the crew, have to apply for it? Yeah. So we. Oh God, it feels like ages now. So the film came out in January, and what happens is we've got the short film, and then we have basically a kind of a list of festivals that we'd love to get into, and yeah, we submitted in January, and as the festivals open, because each festival has its own kind of and this new world of COVID, festivals, which is basically online. I mean, it kind of has worked beautifully because, the community can see the film online, but at the same time, we really wanted to get out there and go to these festivals, go to LA, go to, I know we've got a pretty big community in California and in Chicago as well. And I mean, they're dispersed all around the world, but just going to these festivals, meeting the people, meeting the community, that was something we really wanted to do. But, COVID being COVID, a lot of these festivals are online. Some of them have kind of like split, like Prague, for instance, had a split. They had a physical aspect to it in Prague, and it had the online aspect. And it was really weird, like waking up that morning and having a look at the email and going, okay, let's see how it went. And then it was a live event, and it was like 3 a.m. our time, so obviously we missed it. But woke up the next morning and I clicked the video and it just went through it, and it went through category by category by category, and then it got to best foreign film, and I was like, oh, here we go. We're not expecting anything. We really haven't been expecting anything. We just thought we'd take it out there and we'll see. And then the name got called, and we're like, I swore a bit out of excitement. And my wife was trying to tell me to, calm down and relax. The baby's asleep. And I'm like, get it. We won. But yeah, that's how the festivals work.
That's amazing. I know you mentioned that you really wanted to create this film. What inspired you to create the film Grace?
So what inspired the film was a family member of mine in Mosul went through something pretty tragic. And it's quite sensitive, so I don't really want to kind of go through it. But when I heard this story, it really affected me, and I really wanted to tell that story. So I spoke to my parents about it, and I was like, look, I think, I think I really need to tell this story. And they were like, look, out of respect, we would advise not to do that, only because, just the specificities of the situation and all that. So So I kind of I let it go for a bit, and then when the events of 2014 happened, again it just hit me again, and I was like, no, I need to tell a story. So what happened was the best way I write, or the best way I know how to write, is to put myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I said to myself, look, if I was in that world and that's what happened, and the inevitable was going to happen, and I didn't have the power to, or the resources to get out, or because a lot of them don't. It's funny because a lot of people I know go, oh, but why don't they just go? Why don't they leave? It's you don't buy it.
It's not that easy.
No, you don't buy a plane ticket, get on a first class flight, and then just leave. It's not like that. So put myself in that scenario, and I was like, how would I protect my kids? And I came up with the idea of, if I say, for instance, my daughter, whose name is Grace, which the film's named after, again, wow. Making that, well, if it's personal, it makes it more impactful. And I thought, if I were to protect Grace, how would I do it without, making her panic or worried? And I would do it by disguising it as a game of hide and seek. So I would say to her every day, let's play hide and seek again and again and again and again, until it became automatic, where it almost became methodical. So, all right, now it's time to play hide and seek, up to that moment where, again, the inevitable would happen and hide and seek would turn into a life or death game. So I started writing this film and this script, and I was writing and I got to the end and I was like, oh, yeah, it's all right, I guess, I don't know. But I was at that point in my career, I didn't have the right people behind me to make the film. And obviously, as you know, filmmaking is it is a team sport, and you've got to have the right people behind you to make, it. Some of the mistakes I made in my junior days was, I've got this really cool movie, I'm going to do it. And then I'd go out and do it and it would suck, So I wanted to make sure that to really do this film justice, I would have to wait. And I waited 7 years. So wow. I waited, and the waiting kind of stopped when the pandemic hit and we were sitting at home and had nothing to do. And I was talking to my producer, Darren, and I said to him, I want to make a movie, right? Let's make a movie. Let's do this. And he was like, oh, what have you got? What ideas have you got? And I said, oh, I've got this really cool idea. It's like the mafia and it's the gangsters and, all this type of stuff. And he goes, what? Hang on a sec. You told me you were born in Baghdad. You escaped a war. You went across to Turkey. You came here as a refugee. Your parents started from scratch. That's the story. What's wrong with you? Like, why do you want to tell this other ridiculous story? So I said, oh, hang on. I've got this film that I wrote ages ago. What do you think? So I sent it to him, and he just freaked out. He was like, you're nuts. This is the film we need. We need to tell this story. And at that time, I'd been in the game for a long time, and had the right people, had an incredible team behind me, and teamed up with Chris, who ended up rewriting it and kind of making it a bit more succinct and a bit more streamlined, and off we went. Hit the ground running, and here we are. And here we are.
So you mentioned the name Grace.
Yes.
And you named the film after your daughter. In Aramaic, a lot of my co-hosts were asking, why in Aramaic is it Na'ama?
Yes.
Why that?
Okay, so Grace for us had two meanings. One, it was, a name, right? A name for the little girl, but also, grace itself, like the grace of God, and graceful, and it had all these other meanings. So when we had the title, I never had the title, in Assyrian, in Aramaic. It never was like that. It was just in English, and we were thinking about it, and we thought, obviously, at the beginning, the film was supposed to be in English. And I said, look, if we're going to do this film, it has to be in the native language. It has to be we can't tell this story any other way. It has to be in the native language. Now, obviously, being in the Middle East, in Iraq, predominantly Arabic-speaking country, I thought if we did it, it would also have to have that type of twist to it as well. So having it in Assyrian, but do you know what I mean? It had to have both sides of the world, because that's also important, right? It's having both sides of the story. And when we first started writing this, I didn't want it to be, it wasn't supposed to be, I mean, it's inevitably going to be viewed as a political film, right?
Yeah.
But that was never my intention. My intention was always to present a story about a father and his daughter in its purest form. Because when you funnel it down, that's what it is. They're just human beings. It's not a matter of going, oh, there's this versus that, or this and that, and whatever it may be. Again, that's going to happen because that's just that part of the world, and that's what we're dealing with. But what's important is to paint it as human beings. That is the most important thing, to be like, this is a father trying to protect his daughter. And that's all these people want. You know, that's all they wanted. That's what our people wanted. They don't want anything else but just to live in peace, to live in their homes for, you know, that's been for centuries, and just to walk down the road and get a bottle of milk, come back, play with their children in the backyard, go to work, like the most simple of things. So when I was writing this, I really wanted to make sure that the most simplest of things comes through, and that's just the basic human rights.
Yeah.
So that's you know, I know I kind of you know, swerved off there, but
no, you're helping answer a lot of the other questions that I had, so this is good.
hopefully that answers the title and why I decided to. Yeah.
So we've seen the trailer, and we've seen the father, and we've seen the daughter, and we've seen somebody knocking on the door, and that's pretty much the gist of it. What was the process like with casting Assyrian characters?
So casting was extremely complex. Again, I had no idea, and I don't know if there are any others out there, and if there are, please, you know, come out of the woodworks, because I'm scared, you know, come out of the woodworks. But for us, it was like, you know, I said to Daz, oh, this should be easy, right? You know, there's an Assyrian community and you know, Assyrian Chaldean community in Australia. That's fine. We'll find these people. No, it was very, very hard. So the casting started off with bringing on a casting director, Zach, who I've worked with for many years. And I said to him, you know, he looked at the brief and went, yeah, I don't know how to execute this. Like, this is extremely hard. I don't know what the language is or who the people are. You're going to need to help me. So I reached out to a couple of people in the community and asked for their help, and was like, you know, unfortunately I'm not that entrenched in the community as I should be, and as I would like to be. You know, can you help out? And this is what we need. So he put out a call, you know, to the community, and eventually it kind of made it. And a lot of people were hesitant, obviously. They were afraid, obviously. And a lot of them really were like, who are you? You know, what do you do? What is this again? So there was a lot of, you know, hesitation and confusion, because they just didn't really know what it was. I mean, I had it in my head. I was like, trust me, it's going to be good. Like, come along for the ride. But it was hard. So we started off with Grace. And we had about, I think it was around 30 to 40 young girls that auditioned. Lara, who plays Grace, was the first girl.
Wow. So
I saw her audition and just paused and went, oh, wow, okay. Stopped the playback, called my producer immediately, and I went, we found her. And he goes, will you calm down? Like, you know, you've still got another 30 or so to look at. I said, no, you don't get it, dude. I found her. This is her. And he goes, look, I always tell you to follow your gut. I get it. But this is literally number one. You need to look at the rest of them. You can't book them in. And I was like, all right, whatever. Okay, fine. So we looked through all of them. And look, a lot of them were magnificent and they were great. But there was just something about Lara and her expression and her eyes that just got me, just immediately got me. And I mean, we had to help with, you know, teaching her. I mean, she knew how to speak a little Assyrian, but obviously when you're born, you know, in another country, you tend to learn. Yeah. So we had to help out there, but that's how we got Lara. She was she was incredible. And then the next step was to cast the dad. And a lot of the men that auditioned, again, great, really talented. It was actually a really hard decision to make. We kind of narrowed it down to three, two. And those two were really great. But they just kind of, when it comes to film, you've just got to feel it in your gut, right? You have to go, that's that person.
Mm-hmm.
The person that I was writing, the person that was on the page, that's the person that's going to interpret the words. And we kept looking. And then I said to Daz, my producer, I said, my uncle's got some like kind of minor acting experience. He's also a singer, so he's kind of got like, he's got the creative bone to him. What do you think? And he said, look, just send me a photo. Let's see. And I sent him a photo and he goes, dude, get him to cast now. Like, he looks great. Let's do it. So I was like, I don't know, being my uncle, there might be a little, awkward and whatnot. So anyway, I called him and I asked him and he sent over an audition tape and just blew it away. I had no idea he had it in him. I really didn't. I had no idea. And blew it out of the water, and that's how we got Basil to play the dad. And then the next step was to get another little girl, Grace, who was going up for the main role. She was in the final rounds, and in the original script, you'll see in the film. Mm-hmm. I won't tell you what it is because you haven't seen it just yet. But there's another character, mm-hmm. and that character was originally a little boy, and we rewrote the role for Grace specifically. Mm-hmm. This little girl, because she was just so great. So we had that third, and then the fourth was the uncle. Now the uncle was a really complex thing to kind of attack, because the uncle's almost all of us, right? All of us going, You've got to get out. You've got to get out. It's not safe. You've got to get out. And then we all know those. We all know some family members that just go, no, I'm not leaving. Right? There's imminent danger, but I'm not going to leave.
Yeah.
So this uncle is that character that, the majority of us go, look, yes, it's our land. Yes, it's our country. Yes, this is our heritage, but our family's right here and we're in imminent danger. You've got to make a move, right? So we ran into Johnny, and Johnny is a beautiful soul. Johnny actually was there in 2014 when it happened and narrowly escaped. Literally, within minutes, they came in, bam, grow, and he just escaped. So we were really, really lucky to land Johnny, because from an authenticity point of view, you can't get better. You can't get better than people who actually experienced it. So when Johnny, it was interesting because when he came in, he had this ponytail and he had this this goatee, and he had this really cool guy vibe to him. But when he auditioned, I was like, there's something about this guy. So we spoke more, and I remember on rehearsal days, my AD, my assistant director, when we were doing rehearsal, he leaned over and whispered in my ear, and he goes, Are you sure this is the right person? And I said, trust me, he's the right person. And immediately right off rehearsal, he just blew it out of the water. And the reason why he did that is because he wasn't acting. He was reliving the moment.
It was real life for him.
It was real life for him. And it actually got traumatic. And we had to actually clear the set a couple of times, because it got to a point where it was emotionally affecting him, and he was breaking down because he was remembering those moments. So it was insane. And it was silence. Like anytime he would, and I tried to keep the takes at a minimum because I knew the physical and emotional strain it would cause on reliving moments like that. Because you really do need to put these actors in an environment and in a mindset where it's, life or death, right? So that's a really hard thing to direct. So having him do that, I tried to keep it as minimal, but every single time he would do another take, the reaction would be complete silence. Like it would be, okay, and cut. All right, we need a minute, guys. Let's just get, he'd go outside and be like, profusely smoking, like trying to release tension. But that's our cast, and that was the process for getting the cast.
Wow. And all of them are Assyrian?
All of them Assyrian. Yep. Wow. All of them Assyrian. Yep. That's that's Assyrian casts. Born and bred
In the Aramaic language.
In the Aramaic
with
language.
With the Aramaic title.
Yep. We brought on a lovely advisor, Sarah, who came on, and she was not only our script supervisor, but she was also, kind of our Assyrian, expert in some ways. I mean, obviously Basil and Johnny, they know the language fluently, and they, born there and grew up there. So but it was really important, especially for me, because so I was born in Baghdad, and I came to Australia when I was, only 3 or 4. No, it would have been 4. And I grew up speaking Arabic, because in Baghdad you speak Arabic, and my grandpa used to speak to me in Arabic. So I grew up speaking Arabic, which really annoyed my mother's side of the family, because they'd be like, "You got to speak Assyrian. What's wrong with you?" But I only learned how to speak the language when I got married. So my wife taught me how to speak the language properly.
Oh.
I knew words here and there, because obviously, it's surrounded by family who speak it. But my wife was like, "Nah, we're learning this. You're going to learn this." So when it came to the making of the film, I knew enough to get by, but I really needed certain moments. Like there's obviously again, when you watch the film, there's a moment where they're praying. And what I wanted to do was present the prayer to the world, but also present this mayhem that surrounds the prayer. And you'll see from a sound design point of view, the prayer begins, and then you almost want to just catch it. Like, hang on, I want to hear more of the prayer, and I almost take that away from you. And it's almost, for me, it's a metaphor for our people and our culture, and this language that's been around for thousands of years. That's almost just gone blip. It's kind of like, where is it now? And I know our people are out there, but it's funny, because when you look at the cradle of civilization and you look at everything, now when you say, "Oh, I'm Assyrian," or "I'm Chaldean," or whatever it may be, people go, "What? Who?"
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I also wanted to make the film. I was like, I'm so sick of explaining to people who I am and where I'm from. Mm-hmm. How about I make a movie and tell you, where I'm from? So that was another kind of reason.
I just got goosebumps when you said I took the language away from you, because that's what's happening.
Yeah. So hopefully when you watch the film, you'll see the scene I'm talking about, and hopefully it won't take you out of the film, because I want you to stay in the film. But I get comments like, "Oh, but why didn't you showcase the rest of the prayer?" And you're like, this isn't a documentary, or it's not an educational piece. Well, it kind of, in a sense, but it's not a fist up in the air, this is who we are and this is what it's not that. No. Yeah. That's not the way that's not the way to bring in people into your world and into our culture and into what we've been through. The best way to do it, and you look at the greatest example in cinema history would be Schindler's List. Mm-hmm. You start off immediately, Hebrew, in Hebrew, and you hear it, and it immediately puts you into that world. So that's something I was conscious about. I was like, you can't be expositional, and you can't be almost, ramming it down people's throat. Like, you can't be doing that. It has to be natural, and that's where it all goes back to just saying, these are just human beings. I know you're watching your news, and it looks like they're all, but they're not. They used to live in peace among each other. There used to be peace.
Yeah, absolutely right.
People need to understand that. It's all religions. We're in that world living in peace. Yeah. So we're going to explore that, in detail, hopefully. So
yeah, looking forward to it. So we did outsource a lot of questions from our listeners and from my co-hosts. So one of our listeners, Brian 99, asked, what were some of the largest obstacles and challenges throughout this process?
So the largest obstacle, I would say, is trying to replicate the authenticity of the Middle East in Australia. That was definitely the hardest thing for us to do. So what we did was start off. So we were in lockdown, and we couldn't recce any locations. We couldn't scout anything. So for us, it was a matter of, the hardest thing for us was like, how are we going to find a house that is going to look like Mosul, right? To the best of our ability, obviously, with the minimal, the very tight budget that we've got. So my godfather came to the rescue. So he had a house in the northern suburbs that he was knocking down, and it saved us basically because with locations, if we hide another if we hide the best way to do this is on a set, right? A film set. And what you do is you get reference photos and you go, okay, you build this set, you knock down that wall, etc. But that's a really, really expensive thing to do. So we didn't have that. So we're like, look, we're going to have to just make do with a house and see how we go. My godfather, I spoke to him and he was like, oh, I've got this house and I'm knocking it down. Do you want to check it out? And I said to him, oh, that'd be amazing. So at the same time, I got reference photos from a bunch of family that lived in Mosul and from pre and post 2014, and hundreds of photos. And our art department extraordinaire, Jimbo James, he he's done some incredible sets. And I said, what do you need? What do we need to do to replicate this? And he said, just get me as many photos as you can. So we got all these photos. At the same time, my godfather sends me back photos of this house, and the house is almost identical to the reference photos. It was amazing. Like I was, I said to my producer, I know you're not a man of faith, but I'm telling you, I've been praying every single night, and I think he's listening, because this is fitting perfectly. So he sends it back and he says to me, because we're knocking it down, you can have it. So now we have it. Not only do we have a house, we have essentially a set, right? So for us, it was like, okay, this is going to be a logistical challenge because now we have to go out and speak, and get the word out for our community, get as many photos as we can, and then it's a matter of building it, right? So the carpets, the windows. So in Mosul, a lot of the houses are, obviously in Australia, we've got timber fences. Over there, it's concrete. You've got a big concrete fence, and the windows are all, predominantly, what do you call it? Steel barbells and whatnot, right? So we give it to Jimbo, and finally we let out a lockdown, and we're like, okay, all right, team, here we go. We had all the heads of departments, and what we did in lockdown prior is my DP, director of photography, Aaron, who's an absolute genius, said to me, if you send me a floor plan, I can build you the house in 3D, and we can literally design our shots on Zoom, which is the first time I've ever done it. And it was incredible. So we were building these shots. And when we finally got out, we all got in our cars and we drove to this location. And as we were driving there, predominantly Middle Eastern community, as we were driving there, it was hard rubbish day, which means everyone threw out all their... So we're driving to this location and my art director's like, there's the couch, there's the carpet, there's the TV. So we built this set 90% on hard rubbish.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. We got to set and I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. Like we saved thousands of dollars, on hard rubbish, and we designed the entire set off obviously reference photos to the best of our ability, obviously, and replicated Mosul in Australia. And we did a bunch of VFX work as well in the backyard, and obviously when you see it, you'll know what I mean. Replicated the backyard to try and build the Mosul landscape, the Mosul skyline, because it was really important for me. And initially in the budget, we didn't have scope to do this, but Jamie, our magnificent VFX artist, was like, no, I'll help you guys out. It would be fine, because I had this idea in my head, I'm going to put the audience in this world, and 90% of the film is in this house. And the reason it's in this house is because it acts as like her safety, her sanctuary, right? And the light, we lit it in a way where it's completely outside, because the light is bursting inside of the house. Again, a metaphor for the outside world trying to burst into their sanctuary. But what I also wanted was to have an exterior sequence to actually, help the audience visualize that world. So it didn't look like a cheat, even though it wasn't, everything inside the house wasn't a cheat. It was, symbolic I wanted to also explore that. And when we did that, we had to build basically a concrete wall. So we replaced the timber fencing. We put this big concrete wall with bullet holes all over it because that's what would happen. And there's big mossel, skyline. So logistically, that was the hardest thing to do.
Wow. I can only imagine having to recreate a house in Mosul in Australia.
It was very complex.
It sounds like everything kind of worked out in itself and it was like meant to be.
Yeah. Just, I don't know. It's any aspiring filmmakers out there, pray.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just pray. Yeah.
So let's kind of go a little bit back and talk about your career in directing commercials.
Yeah.
What's been your best experience with that?
So I started off my career as an editor. I always knew I wanted to direct, but I thought if I understood editing entirely, even to the point where I'm physically doing the editing, it would make me a better filmmaker because, editing is it's the last hurrah. That's how you make your film. I mean, his classic comment is, the film gets rewritten in the editing suite, in the editing floor. So then did a bunch of editing and then made my way through directing. And I chose advertising because directing ads is not only fun, right? It's very energetic, but trying to tell a story within a 30-second, even a 15-second window is a real challenge. And I thought, look, if I could hopefully master that, by the time, I get to the point where I've kind of, honed my craft and sharpened my skill set, by the time I get to film, hopefully I'll understand it enough. And it does take a long time. And the other question I get is, why now? Like, why is it taking you so long? It's because it's not easy. That's number one. But to do it of a certain caliber, where you really need, to compete against the rest of the great filmmakers that are out there, and there are thousands out there, you really need to, one, really sharpen your skill set, and two, build that team around you. And I've been using my team for many years now, about 6-7 years now. Like it's been predominantly the same team, depending on their availability. But I always use my same team because I know they'll always deliver. I know that I've got something in my head. Aaron will figure out how to shoot it. Darren will figure out how to make it. That's that team. So
they know how you work.
They know how I work, and that's very rare. Like our communication is very minimal because I'll just go, I've got this, and remember how we did and then they'll just go, oh, yep, automatic, we get it. You need this, and this. In terms of best experience, there's been many really amazing experiences, and the agency that I work at the moment are incredible, and they're super supportive, and they supported this film, and absolutely amazing. But I would say the best experience, only because it was such a challenge and a foreign feel to it, was I directed a commercial for GMC trucks in Dubai.
Wow.
In the middle of the desert, which proved to be a very, very, very tough challenge, because I'm kind of like, I like cold weather. Like I like skiing and stuff like that, right? So when it comes to the heat, I'm just like, oh God. So it was very humid, very hot, and it was very big. So I'd say that one there would be one of the top, jobs I've done, because it was just such a challenge, and I love challenges.
Yeah. The way that you're talking about filmmaking, you're so passionate about it. Have you always wanted to go into directing and filmmaking? Absolutely. 100%.
As a kid, I'd love watching movies. I still love watching. I watch a movie a day. It's always been my passion, and I never realized until really a couple of days ago when our community just went, "Oh, what you're doing way more." I never realized that the skill set that I've got could actually be used for something that could potentially make a change. So really now my mindset's, film has always been a powerful thing, right? For many, many different cultures, many different, look at Italian, for example, right? The Roman Empire, how many films have been made about that? Or the Greeks, for instance, or, So my, the projects that we've got on the table at the moment are the feature, is a series that we're hopefully, we want to push to like something like Netflix would be amazing. And that series is spans our entire kind of history and culture. But yeah, in terms of, has it always been my passion and my love? 100%.
That's amazing.
Love every bit of it.
Right? Yeah, you have to love what you do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's been the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Follow your gut.
I love
Follow
it.
your gut.
That's what you've been doing with this film, and here we are.
Always
accolade after accolade.
Always follow your gut. Never. What makes a really good filmmaker, and what I've learned is surround yourself by amazing people that do what they do best, and always understand that they're the expert in their field, not you. So for me, my job is, I've got a vision. I've got something that's in my head. Now I find the right DP, the right producer, the right editor, the right storyboard artist, the right art director, right composer. They're the people that are experts. So my job really is to just answer questions. Where do you want this? Where do you want that? How do you want this? And you've got to be able to, answer them in a succinct, straightforward way, right? But if you follow your gut the whole way through, you can't fail. You just cannot fail. It's because there's something inside that says to you, look, you're getting feedback from several different places, right? And what worked really beautifully in this film is Chris, the screenwriter, is very kind of indie and very artistic and very kind of metaphorical. And Daz, my producer, he's very kind of straightforward, and he's to be a producer, you need that kind of mentality, right? Very expositional. You need to explain certain things, right? And having those one to the left, one to the right, you kind of learn to sit in the middle and you go, I'll take a bit of that, and I'll take a bit of that, and I'll take a bit. You get to a point where you understand that you're following your gut. You're hearing these suggestions or these ideas, but if you follow your gut, again, you just cannot make a mistake. That's the best piece of advice I've ever been given.
That's awesome. So recently, you mentioned the Assyrian community has kind of been blowing up your inbox, Instagram, social media, and it's all been positive feedback. What has been the feedback outside of the Assyrian community?
The feedback outside has been extraordinary, and again, very grateful. So many people have been really supportive of the film. Yeah, it's really heartwarming. It's really heartwarming. It's I think for us, it's when we were trying to get this film off the ground, and in terms of funding, we found really great people to help us. One of them is named Zahi, another one Mahad, and they helped us fund a majority of the film, and the community came together, and again without much information. Like I didn't have any storyboards or a pitch or anything like that, right? It was just, hey, there's this guy, you don't know him, but he wants to make this movie, help him out. And our community just, in Australia, banded together. And if I knew in advance about the rest of us, right? And if I had access to the rest of us, which I didn't at the time, I didn't even fathom. It was, for me, it was just, I need to get this movie made. That was it. Everything else from a, social media point of view or marketing or connecting, networking point of view, I had no idea. And there's so many people at the moment who are helping out, getting off the ground. But in terms of outside the community, it's been, magnificent. We've heard, don't get me wrong, we've had some no's from festivals. We've had some, this doesn't quite fit our, our not agenda, but it doesn't kind of fit our world at the moment, right? So there have been a couple of those festivals, but predominantly we've been getting great feedback from festivals. We've been getting great feedback from like the, how do you say it, non-Assyrian community or something? I don't know. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. So it's great. And I'm always like, I love constructive feedback, if there's, I always get people asking certain questions like, oh, what about this, for example, the Yazidis, right? And I'm like, mate, I've got 10 minutes to tell a story. I don't have 5 hours, so, but it is something that we'll explore in the feature film, hopefully. Right. But anytime I get that kind of feedback, it's like, oh, great. They're actually listening. They're actually focusing. How I know I've done my job is, it was something that I really wanted to happen is when you watch the film, you'll get what I mean. When the film ends, 99% of people are completely silent. And in the cinema, when we had our premiere, this is the first time I experienced this reaction. The film ended and it was nothing. No one reacted. And I was like, what is going on, right? Like, what have we done?
Did they like it? Do they not like it?
Exactly. But what they do is they take it in. A lot of 99% of people completely silent. They take it in and then they burst out into, well, what about this? What about that? How did this happen? How did that? And it causes conversation. It actually invokes conversation, and that is a really powerful thing for a film to do. Like when you watch a movie, when you watch a movie that's not supposed to do that, right? I'm not going to target any specific genre, but a film that's not supposed to do that, you kind of watch it and then you just walk away, right? Because it kind of ties it up and it ends it, and everything's very beautiful and lovely, and then it's there. But what I do with this film on purpose is to go, okay, let's talk. Let's discuss this. This is important. Let's talk about this. And a lot of people ask the right questions. Who are Assyrians? Where do they come from? Who are Chaldeans? And I mean, that's the most fun is who are Assyrians and who are Chaldeans, right? That's the most, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to talk about this. I do not, they're the same thing. And they're like, what do you mean it's the same? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not a politician. I'm just going to walk away from this. But yeah, it causes conversation is what I'm trying to say.
And I mean, having this film in all these film festivals and so many different people watch it, non-Assyrians, you're getting the word out there of who we are, what we've been through, what's actually going on in the homeland right now and during ISIS. So that's a really important part of it. Totally. Yeah. One of my fellow co-hosts, John, he asked if you've ever seen the film Life is Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
You have. Okay, great. So he said he's asking, what, if any, inspiration did you take from that?
I get where he's coming from. Yeah. It's I actually watched Life is Beautiful after the premiere. Okay. So I hadn't seen Life is Beautiful until we premiered, and someone like John came up to me and went, "Have you seen Life is Beautiful?" And I was like, "Not yet. What's Life is Beautiful?" And it's like, "Oh, you got to watch it. It's beautiful." Kind of reminded me of this film and I went home and I watched it and I go, "That's really cool. I like that. I really do like that." Look, I personally, for me, how I came up with this story is to put myself in that world, okay? To connect myself physically and emotionally to that world. And personally, I wouldn't have the courage to tell my kids, my 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, what was going on. And I see in that film as well, that's basically what was going on as well, right? To kind of maintain that innocence. And one thing that's always intrigued, always kind of affected me and astonished me is how quickly children in that part of the world grow up. They got to grow, 12, 13. I mean, back in the day, 13, 14, people were getting married, So when I hear that, I go, oh, wow, that innocence must be completely snatched away from them. Their childhood, there is no. So again, that's what when it comes to, films like Life is Beautiful, I guess that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go, how do we maintain innocence within a childhood? But yeah, it was lovely. That the night of the premiere, my mate came up to me and he's like, dude, you got to watch Life is Beautiful. That's really, have you seen it? I go, no, not yet. I got to watch it.
Now I want to watch Life is Beautiful.
Oh, it's a beautiful film. It's really lovely.
First, I'm going to watch Grace, and then I'll watch Life is Beautiful.
Hey, look, drawing inspiration from films like that. I mean, every film draws from a previous film's inspiration, always. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be art. It could be, I mean, you know, Tarantino does it best, right? Tarantino takes something that's already been made and then just reconstructs it and makes it his own. That's just the way art is. So the inspiration for Grace was really a couple of films. One of them was Capernaum, which is a Lebanese film about a refugee. And yeah, I won't tell you a lot about it because I think it's better to, from a film perspective, it's better to just watch the film. When you get somebody tell you about a film, you kind of go, oh, why did you do that? I just want to watch the movie. Capernaum, Sin Hombre is another beautiful film about a family trying to cross through Mexico into the United States. Beast of No Nation is another inspiration, which tackled child soldiers in Africa. And the final one that really sparked all the creative decisions and you know, inspired me the most was Incendies, which is a film by Denis Villeneuve, which is a beautiful film. They're all, you know, they all act as like inspiration, and you know, and then you draw inspiration from like visuals, like, you know, DPs like Roger Deakins, you know, his photography, or Rob Richardson, you know, or Rodrigo, like, you know, there are so many different places that you draw inspiration from, and that's the way to do it, really, because if you don't know what works and what doesn't work, and you start to get lost in how to make something. Yeah.
So one of our listeners, Janan, is asking, what help do you need to make this a feature film?
What help do we need to make this a feature film? So the feature film is a very complex thing to try and get off the ground. So the first thing we're doing at the moment is we're writing what's called an outline. And an outline is basically the story, you know, it's like an elevator pitch, right? If I met you in an elevator and I had to tell you the entire story, that's what the outline is. So we're doing that at the moment, and we've got writers' rooms basically on a daily basis. So once we get the outline done, because we are in Australia, and the film follows, the film expands, and it's got a bit of an Australian backdrop, only, again, drawing inspiration from me and my situation and my world, and obviously the community in Australia. It has it follows Grace and Grace's journey with her uncle and her father and aunties, and I was saying to Daz, the three things that kind of make us who we are, right? If you were to kind of visualize them, is our baptisms, our weddings, and our funerals, right? So there's the life, you know, there's life, death aspect kind of thing. So our baptisms are quite unique. Our weddings are definitely quite unique. And our funerals are also quite unique. You know, like in Western culture, they tend to celebrate, whereas ours are quite intense in terms of mourning and, you know, stuff like that. So I said I really wanted to put at least 2 out of the 3 in the film to get that off the ground. So what can the community do to help us out? Well, the more eyes on the short film, the better. Because essentially what we're doing is we're building an audience. And when we go to the funding bodies or the financiers that are hopefully going to invest in this film and make it, one of the things that we need to present is there an audience? And if there's an audience of thousands already, you know, and I know there are way more than that, but if there are an audience of thousands that are backing us and backing the film, it's going to make more sense for the money people, right? And obviously, a feature film is not going to be cheap to make, especially what I've got in my head. And my producer loves to remind me, he's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, dude, I'm not compromising. The feature film is going to explore a lot. And what you're trying to do is, you know, in 2014, you're talking about, right now in Mosul, you're talking about a Mosul that used to exist. And that's something we need to try and convey on screen. That's going to take money. You have to build the set, you have to build the VFX, you have to, you know, so yeah, it's 2 things. One, obviously, building the audience, getting as many eyes on the short film as possible. And then obviously financing, you know, is another thing as well. And I'm not expecting, you know, people to throw money at the film, but it's assisting the funding bodies and the financiers, right? Assisting them and the best way to do that is to go, hey, there is already an audience right here, right? Because in this day and age, if you've already got an audience, you're going to get funding like this. You know, there's so many, and with the world of like YouTube and stuff like, you know, if a YouTuber who's got, you know, 75 million subscribers goes up to a funding body and says, I want to do a feature, they're going to go, yeah, you've already got 75 million eyes, you know? So for us, building the audience is the most important thing at the moment. Yeah. There are a lot of other, you know, little nitty gritty things that I'm sure that, you know, we'll kind of tackle with, but I'm again, now that I've got my gang, got my support around me, I can, you know, it's going to be not as hard as trying to get off the, you know, the short, because the short was like, how do we do this? How do we do this?
Yeah. So how long is the movie?
The short film. The short film is 11 minutes. 11
minutes. And how long did it take you with the entire process to create this 11-minute?
11 minutes was, I'd say, about 2 months of pre-production, 3-day shoot, which should have been a 7-day shoot. So we crammed in a lot of stuff, you know. Yeah, the film, we had to find ways around it. And I'm so grateful for the cast and the crew for all their hard work and all long hours. You know, it wasn't easy. So yeah, 2 months of 3-day shoot and about, I'd say 2 months of post-production. So all up, let's say 4 months, all up.
Wow, for 11 minutes.
11 minutes, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to put that into perspective for our listeners, that it is a lot of hard work.
It's not, that's not even counting.
That's not even, you're writing.
Counting, the writing, the rehearsals, so there's a lot to take into account. And obviously when it comes to a feature film, it's you know, it'll be a 5 or 6 month, no, I'd say about an 8 month journey. But you got to remember that's a bigger team, a much bigger team. You know, it takes a very long time to kind of, you know, get something, especially again of the caliber that I'd love to execute and you know, the grand kind of vision, 2.5 hour kind of window. It's going to take a lot. Well, the Assyrian Chaldean community is behind you. So we're really excited to see the film. I know I purchased a ticket through the Boston Film Festival, and after this, I'm going to go and watch it. So thank you so much. Yeah. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. I hope you enjoy the film. Thank you. So one final question that we ask all of our guests on the Assyrian Podcast is that what is one thing that you'd like to say to our listeners? And we have listeners all around the world. What would you like to say to them? Keep our culture alive. Keep it alive. It's a beautiful culture with a massive history. And it'd be a shame to see it kind of slowly disappear. So I'd say keep it alive and keep it well and hopefully, you know, the one of the most amazing emotional things for me would be if this film inspired, you know, other people to go out and tell their stories as well, and that would be a pretty incredible thing. Keep it alive. Thank you so much for listening to the Assyrian Podcast and your continued support. Please be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. Share the episode with your family and friends, and we will see you all next week.